Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where it's about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Animal Kingdom. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, first and foremost, let's start off with Pope's situation. The fact is that he's kind of in his fugue state, and it's getting worse and worse now. It's he just had his episode literally like an episode or two ago, not knowing what he was doing, and now it's happened again. And he was wandering around in the neighborhood looking at it. I was like, is this supposed to be? And we find out later on it's because it's the neighborhood that him, Julia, and Smurf lived in years ago, the one we're seeing in the flashbacks in this episode. And so on some level, he's still... I don't know what he was necessarily looking for, because the neighbor lady was like, did you find her? He's like, what? She's like, yeah, you said you were looking for your sister. And I'm like, I guess it's like now that his mom's gone, like the person he could like... Once again, a twin thing is on a completely different level. I mean, at least that's what they say. Like, the connection with a twin is so different from like that of his other siblings. It's like, because you know, obviously Darren and Craig are just his half-brothers. Julia was straight up his sister, you know? So there's an even deeper bond of blood there. So it's a thing of, right, who would be the, like, and I think it's because that's the way the relationship was. Anytime Pope was going through something, Julia would be there to kind of, like, she kind of was his other half. Like, he was always a little off, and I think she grounded him. And, like, now that it's, like, in some state in his mind, it's like, mom's gone, I need to find my sister. My sister, I need her, she's always been there for me. And now that he's going through something super traumatic, he doesn't even have his sister to rely on. So, I think that's kind of fascinating. And, I mean, it's not like he actually went to any of his siblings for help, or even Jay. He, like... Because obviously he talks with the doctor about what happened. It's like, right, he has to cover up. It's like, your mom, yeah, she died. Cancer. Ugh, super sudden, you know? At the same time, hard cutting to Jay shooting her and killing her. So it's like, you know, and it's like, oh, like, the doctor suggesting, like, right, this is, you know, a dissociative fugue state, brought about because of trauma, like, you know, trauma or like stress, you know, something like losing a loved one like he has. She's even suggesting, like, you talk to somebody. It doesn't even have to be a therapist, maybe your bartender. Just talk to somebody, remove yourself from those circumstances. But it's like, can't necessarily do that. I mean, because everything they do kind of revolves around Smurf. But I guess that's why, you know, jumping ahead a little, I guess that's why he finally blew up at Jay. Because out of anyone, he seemed like the least, like, pissy towards Jay. Craig's kind of pissy because Darren's being pissy at him. But Darren's the most pissy at Jay in this particular episode. But, once again, to be fair, Pope and Jay have always had, like, the very cantankerous relationship they've had. Once again, I do believe that being his nephew and everything, you're like, yo, you're like, more so than even the others. It's like, you're the son of my twin, you know, so even more so than anything, he should be, you know, they should be closer, even in that regard. But, aside from, you know, even all of that, the fact is that, like I said, I thought they'd be close, but, like, he blew up at Jay because Jay is the biggest reminder of Smurf. Because, like, right, like, I'm with my, like, you're the one that killed her. Like, I can't help but look at you. Every time I look at you, it's just a reminder. I'm sure it's a reminder of Julia being gone, too. And it's like, right, a reminder of just, like, these two people in my life. I mean, he had nothing to do with Julia, but it's like, right, you are responsible for Smurf, and he's never going to be able to unsee that. And it's like, you know... And because I think it's so fascinating, too, because, like, he was agreeing with the doctor. Was like, I can hold you for 24 hours if you're going to talking. And she's like, yeah, that's okay. And the moment Jay shows up, he's like, no, I'm ready to go. It's like either I think, the thing is, earlier he says, well, later he says, I could have used you. Because it's like, once again, he's tighter with his brothers than he is Jay. Like, it's like, and I think in particular, like, Darren's the one he kind of would have leaned on. Craig is one thing, but I think Darren's the one he would have really leaned on. And it's like, if Darren had shown up at a hospital, I'm curious, would it have been a situation where Pope had been like, you know what, no, I'm going to stay here. I do, but it's like the moment Jay's asking, like, not unless you want to stay, he's like, no, I'm good. Like, it's because it was Jay, it made that, like, I don't know. And it makes me wonder. Especially when Jay was like, yeah, we... And he's like, we? He's like, yeah, we got to stick together. Like, it seems like every little thing Jay was saying this episode, like, was like ticking up on the meter of pissing Pope off. You know, it seemed like he was just ready to kind of blow up at Jay at any moment. And it's like, so Jay... I mean, and Jay's, like, super screwed because, like, literally everyone's against him. It's like, they're supposed to be united in this situation. Even him saying the remark of, like, now Smurf's going, like, it's up to, yeah, like, things will be better without Smurf. Once again, it's just, like, little things Jay's been saying throughout the episode, little things he's doing. His very existence is pissing Pope off. So, like... Now it's like, he's got to deal with that. Plus, he's got to deal with Darren all up in his shit. Because it's like, Darren's like, oh, cool. How's that thing with Pete? Cool. So, show me how everything's working. Oh, here's a bowling alley. Cool. Safe. Give me the combination. It's like, he gets punked by his own uncle. It's like, once again, they've never had the greatest relationship, but it's never been like this. It's like seriously? It's like, yeah, give us some of that money you stole from her. All right, cool. Because it's supposed to be money just to kind of keep some money on hand for the business. And it's like, cool, so I'm going to give Pope and Craig their cut. It's just like, because once again, it's like, Jay has always been an outsider. It's like, we grew up around each other. Julia kind of left the family, did her own thing. So, like, this family's always been a thing. Jay's been the outsider. He always has been the outsider. And so, obviously, Darren's second-guessing him because Jay thinks, like, oh, I run things. But Darren's like, no, don't get it twisted, kid. You're, like, the newbie. If anyone's going to run things, it's one of us. They still haven't had that conversation, but the trailer, like, hints to it. It's like, you know, I'm running things. It's that. But it hasn't happened yet. Like, that conversation hasn't happened. But it's right now, it's more like we make the decisions, like... Because also, like, he's the punk kid he's the runt of the family. Like, no, we're the adults here. We're going to have, like, our little baby nephew, like, run us and tell us what to do. Like, yeah, you got some ideas, like, you're part of the crew, so we'll listen to you. But it's like, nah, you've kept too many damn secrets, so Darren's pissed at him. I mean, to be fair, Darren's got so much on his plate, too. Like, the DEA agent being like, oh, like, you know, Adrian is, like, you know, asking to see photos of his nephew from his sister, and it's like, eventually he's going to get sick and want to come home and see his friends and family, and, you know, they kind of basically saying that'll be the slip up. Like, the moment that, like, your window of working with us, Darren, like, making a better deal for yourself is closing. Now, immediately I'm like, are they going to set it up so, like, Darren is going to be so fed up with Jay that he throws Jay to the DEA just to get him off the rest of the family's back, get him off Adrian's back, get him off his back? It's like, right, I'm going to throw Jay. He'll be our sacrificial lamb. And it seems like that could possibly be a thing. I don't know. It's all about family and everything, like the Fast and Furious franchise. But, like, in this regard, it's kind of like, nah, but Jay's family, but it's got quotes around it. And that's, you know, even him visiting Pete, being like, oh, so you're waiting to move everything at once, bringing that up to Craig, and just being like, man, I'm tired of Jay running things. Like, we should be letting him run things. Like, are you okay with Jay handling things? Because he also set up the Frankie thing, which Craig was like, nah, I'm going to handle that Frankie thing. Which begs the question, what is it that Frankie's up to? I guess she's trying to get in good with, like, this, like, the Codys, because it's like, I mean, she's done work with them before, but, like, she was more so trying to impress Smurf, but now it's a situation of trying to get, like, either she's in some, like, deep trouble and she needs whatever thing that the Codys are up to. Not unless we end up finding out she's working with, the DEA agent or something like that and just trying to screw over the Codys. I don't know. Because Darren came there to be like, yeah, like, you literally screwed us over, took my money, made me look stupid, so not letting that happen again. She's like, fine, I'll take whatever deal. The fact is that she's so willing to compromise. It's like, he's like, 2%. She's like, fine. And he's just kind of like, I won. I'm big tough guy. I'm like, the fact that she caved so easily means that either she's desperate, or, like, she has some, like, super shady on the side going on. I have no idea. No, you know, I mean, that's why he came there, because he doesn't trust Frankie. He's like, right, also stay away from Jay. It's like, once again, he's just, like, Jay's getting it from every angle from his uncles in that regard. Then there's also the fact is that Darren went to go visit Pamela because he didn't know that Jay had already investigated her, And I think that speaks volumes that, like, Jay never bothered going to see her himself, because I guess he figured it is what it is, and I think for him, I think he's trying to play the long game of, like, nah, I'm gonna wait, see how things with the lawyers and stuff like that plays out. Darren, being the impatient type, decided just to handle things himself, which Pamela's like, oh, what, you know, the fact of the matter is, like, there's a white guy, like, she was like, one of my neighbors says something about a white guy staring at my place for a couple hours, so I figured that had to be one of Janine's badass kids. Which one are you? And he's like, Darren. She's like, Darren. All right, because, like, how tightly knit was she into, because obviously, like, those, Darren and Craig popped out after she had already kicked Janine out of their, well after she had already kicked Janine out of her place, so I'm like, who knows, like, whether they stayed in contact or whether there's still more interactions left, like, maybe they, because, like, she tells a story of, like, yeah, I had to kick her out of my house, like, what we've gotten in the backstory so far, like, that's her reiterating that, but we don't know how deep that history still went, like, whether they still had interactions. I mean, Smurf did leave her everything. So, and even Darren's asking, like, why? It's like, honestly, she's like, I don't know why, but if your mom did it, she did it for a reason, because it's like, right, I'm just trying to negotiate. It's like, oh, why'd you bring a gun? Pretty stupid to bring a gun to a negotiation, so she definitely ain't going to give you, because I think for her, it's like, right, you're not as smart as I thought you'd be. But also, it's interesting, because, like, it's like, me and my brothers, we're not used to people taking stuff from us, we're used to taking stuff from people, which Pamela gets that. You kind of got to take what you want in life type of thing. And Pamela's got that mentality, but she's also like, you ain't taking a goddamn thing from me. You know, so I'm gonna let you know that quick. So I'm not giving it to you. But you can earn it. But, you know, if you and your brothers are as good as you think you are, and Darren's kind of like, And she's like, okay, until then, get out. I'm like, she's going to give them a job or something? I'm like, huh. Because she's bringing up this whole conversation about Smurf built her whole operation. Like, she built an empire. Like, no one ever gave her nothing. Like, what she got, she found, and she took it, and she made it herself. So part of me is, like, thinking, like, is this supposed to be, like, some tough love stuff of, like, I'm taking everything away from my kids because I found myself. I found who I was, who I became the moment I had nothing and had to fight for it. Like, maybe she's trying to do, like, my kids have been suckling on my teats for years. It's time for them to grow up and be the men that they are and figure this shit out on their own. It's time for them to prove themselves. It's time to sink or swim without me. I'm believing that maybe that's what this whole thing is. That's why she gave it to Pamela. Because, hey, Pamela kind of, like, sat her straight when she was kind of going buck wild. So I think maybe maybe Smurf is hoping the same thing will happen to them. It's like, right, they'll be able to go off on their own finally and spread their wings. Like, it's so interesting because I think that's so fascinating because Smurf always coddled them, and maybe that's at the very end. It's like, right, I did them no good because I'm about to kick the bucket, and if I do, they're not going to be prepared. But it's like, right, I'm gonna have to throw them in the deep end, and you know, when you're kind of forced to like adapt and change and grow and build your own, then that's when because how are diamonds formed? Through pressure, and maybe that's what she's trying to do. She's trying to forge the four of these kids, essentially, I put that in quotes, forge all of these kids into diamonds. And maybe that's the role that Pamela's supposed to serve. So I'm assuming that they're going to get a job from Pamela. It's going to be like an extremely hard job. It's like, right, you guys do some work, and then you're going to earn, like, everything that, like, Smurf left me. I'll give it back to you, but only when you earned it. I'm like, so it's interesting because they exchanged one Smurf for another Smurf. I don't know. I mean, also, she's not the mom, so she's probably not going to coddle them as much as Smurf did. Yeah, which you could be like, oh, what Smurf did was coddling? You saw the coddling in some ways, but other ways it's like, oh, that was Smurf's way of coddling. But yeah, I mean, because hell, even Pope, it's like, because like the doctor, like, what was her name, Franklin, was like, oh, were you close to your mom? He's like, that's a complicated question. It was a complicated relationship or something like that. So it's like, yeah, that describes that entire family relationship to a T. Complicated with a capital C. So I don't know. I'm curious. Since I did talk about it a little bit earlier, I'm going to bring up the whole Jay thing. It's still, like I said, it's just, you cannot catch a break because it's like Pete's like, all right, cool. You want me to rush things, or at the very least, you can't hold on to like the coke forever. All right, so it's going to cost an extra 20%, 10, and he's like, all right, things can be extremely dangerous. So it's like, there's a lot of risk going. And he's like, fine. So, and he had made that promise to Darren that they're all going to get their money, everything that they're owed, but obviously Pete's getting a slice of the pie, a hefty slice of the pie, which now I'm like, now Pete think he's running, like Jay's getting, like this is the episode where everyone's kind of punking Jay to a certain extent, and it's like he's stumbling to stay afloat, essentially, because he's like got no backing from his uncles, like he's trying to run things, be his own man in his own regard, but then like nothing's working out. But to be fair, you have to walk before you have to crawl before you walk type of thing, So, but I think the thing is Jay's trying so hard to sprint, I think, to be the next Smurf in his own regard, which I think they're all trying to, but definitely in Jay's case. But Pope obviously is just the big pissed at him. Once again, it's just like, right, you killed our mom. You shouldn't have done that. If it was like, I mean, that's the biggest issue he has, because it's like, right, I think it's like, it's one thing of like, right, like, it shouldn't have gone down like that. We should have just let her die naturally. Or maybe it's a thing of you shouldn't have been the one to pull the trigger, because also, like, right, you're Julia's kid, so maybe that plays some role in it, but it just, none of us should have pulled the trigger, is kind of what that comes down to. But also, and it's something I've kind of felt for a while, that the show's always kind of pushed that, like, Jay doesn't really, like, Jay only stuck around this family, like, he's done a lot to protect his family, but it's like, does he really love his uncles? Did he really love Smurf? I don't know. It's not always easy to tell what's going on, like, what's going on in Jay's mind. He's not a really open book, so obviously there's a lot of stuff he keeps, which I find so ironic that Darren's like, oh yeah, all the secrets he keeps. Like, what about the secret you're keeping? You've only told Craig, but to be fair, Craig and Darren have always been the tightest. But it's like, you've never told you haven't told Pope nor Jay about the DEA agent that's like sniffing around, and Adrian and all that. Like, you haven't really told any of them about that. So I just think it's ironic, the whole like secrets thing. Even the fact that he's going to meet Pamela, like, he hasn't talked about that yet. We'll see. He'll probably confide in Craig, but no one else. But going back to it, to me, I've always felt like Jay felt like, well, I'm with this family because they're the only people I got in the world. Because at the very least, like, if I'm on my own, I'll get chewed up, spit out by this world. At the very least, with them, I have a place to call home, and I can learn to survive. Which, to be fair, he's being reminded all the time. This isn't your home, kid. You're staying here. This is our home. You're the outsider we welcomed in. Like, it's been that way since the beginning, and it still feels like that. Even after everything we've been through, I've played my part. I've done what I've done. Like, I've done stuff to protect this family they'll never know about, like the whole Mia thing. Now, like, being the one to pull the trigger on Pope, because I keep saying Pope, on Smurf, because it's like none of you would have done it. So, that's on me, and so... Because I think, even then, like, when it comes to, like, Smurf, is like, did he love Smurf? I'm like, I don't know. I think Smurf was a means to an end, because, like, I'm sure there's some level of resentment because of how his mom ended up. It's like, you weren't really there for my mom. You kind of weren't there for me until after she died. So, I think it's just, I cared enough about Smurf because she taught me what I needed to survive. Like, she was just her as well as his uncles are just a means to an end. Like, now that I've learned what I've learned, he thinks he's ready to kind of take over. He's like, ready. That him killing Smurf is supposed to be symbolic of not only like, right, I'm respecting your wishes, you're kind of crazy right now, but also like, right, this gives me an opportunity to bump you out of the way so I can start running things. Like, you've been grooming me to, like, be this. And, once again, it's also, like, symbolic in the sense that, like, Julia's kid's the one that ends up pulling the trigger. Like, there's elements to that where just... Like, this could be me, like, thinking too much on it. That's just how I'm feeling about a lot of this. So, there's just layers upon layers of this, once again, this super complicated family dynamic. So, and it's interesting, too, because I obviously have these conversations about, Smurf building her empire, and we actually got to see that this episode. We got to see, like, the real beginnings of it, when it's like, alright, that's why I'm taking up shop here in Oceanside. She goes with Jake and Manny to, like, get one of those teller machines, and it's like, right, she made a connection with someone from a different place. It's like, right, she's worked on the machines, like, yeah, like, it's a little different, but the same concept applies. So it's like, you're supposed to blow those things over, but when you blow them open, like, that's when, like, the money gets burnt too. But it's like, right, that lady told me what's what, because Macy, she wants her own cut to this too. She's also showing you the beginnings of who Smurf is, that she makes connections with people who basically teach her and give her the knowledge and the know-how, and she built these connections and stuff like that. Once again, the boys don't have any connections. All the connections that exist are Smurfs. They have to reestablish theirs. It's about cutting ties with what was Smurfs, because even Darren was saying the whole thing of like, right, everything's under Smurf's name. Eventually it's going to be, it's this, it's that. Next thing's going to be in the phone. Like, it's stuff like that happens when someone dies. It's like all the cables have been cut to the lifeline that has been Smurf up until now. So it's like, you got to keep, essentially you got to get your life jackets and get on a lifeboat, or your own respective lifeboats and life jackets. Under these circumstances, you know, like I said, it's sink or swim time, boys. Type of situation. At least, you know, that's how I'm vibing and feeling about it. But yeah, like I said, Smurf, like, I think on some level, maybe because of the whole thing of, yeah, like giving her family somewhere to, it's like, right, I like Oceanside, this is home, and then Pope kind of nodded. So it's like, right, this became their home, and this become, it's like, well, what if this is someone else's playground? And it's like, well, we'll figure it out. And Manny and Jake kind of look at it, all right, I mean, this was successful, so we'll see. And like I said, this is the fledgling of where it really starts, of like Smurf's operation. So, other than all of that in this episode, there's also the situation with Craig's story, which, like, Ren's away, so he's kind of playing, like, solo dad, and obviously not the best at it, because I guess, like, Ren handles a lot of the, obviously, day-to-day stuff, and so I love the fact is that, like, he runs into that kid at the shop, which, is that the same kid who played, or dude who played Sean in Rebel? It seemed like it could be, I'm not sure, but it's like, oh yeah, here's some tips for how to take care of a baby. It's like, yeah, like, rock him like a football. Or, oh, he's got gas, you gotta, like, treat him like a puppy, or, like, kind of patting him like a puppy or whatever. And he's like, oh, really? And then offers to do a babysitting job. It's like, bro, you don't really even know this dude. I mean, you know him because it's like, oh, you know my bro. It's like, what's his Davey? Crackhead Davey? They called him CD? Oh, yeah, how's your bro? Yeah, he's in jail. Oh, huh, considering everything that's kind of going on recently and people sniffing around, it makes you go, yeah. It's like, oh, that's kind of a bummer. I mean, hell, it's like, oh, I'm surprised Craig didn't make some remark of, oh, I know how you feel. I've had a brother in jail before, too, you know, Pope and everything. But, I'm just saying, but I love that, like, you just, like, oh, you just hired to do on a spot to be, like, the babysitter. And it's like, oh, man, there's a weed there if you want to, like, roll something. He's like, nah, dude, I got some. Like, oh, man, you make it, yeah, you gotta, because there's, like, a surfing thing, and Craig's like, oh, yeah, like, you gotta be, pretty, he's trying to teach, his son Nick, like, early on, like, oh, you gotta learn to balance and stuff like that. It's like, but the dude, like, it's like, oh, yeah, Davey's little brother being like, oh, yeah, you gotta, like, even though they can't physically do it, you gotta get to them, like, mentally, like, is ingrained in their heads. And Craig's like, yeah, like, he found, like, a kindred spirit in this dude. And it's like, before the dude left, he's like, whoa, what are you about to do? He's like, oh, I'm about to get on these stairs. He's like, no. Don't be a douche. He's like, okay, I guess I'll walk. And then, like, Craig gets, like, the others to, like, gather up a whole bunch of scooters. I love that it's been this, like, because I think for Craig, it's the personification of, like, the gentrification of their neighborhood. It was like, no, we ain't about to have that here. He's, like, been pissy about it. Hell, he even, like, shoulder checked one of the dudes on one earlier. It's just like, nah, none of that, like, douchebaggery is going to be, like, rolling here. It's like, nah, we're not about that, bro. So he ends up stockpiling a whole bunch of them in the middle. He's like, what are you going to do? Like, what? And I love the kid being like, what are we going to do? Piss on him? And he's like, nah, step back. And then, like, a monster truck comes by and just rolls over on him. The dudes are like, yeah! Once again, just that dude mentality of, yeah, smashing shit. And it's like, just Craig being like, no more scooters. I'm like, why? I mean, once again, what they represent, sure, but it's also just like, I love Craig's little fight he had this. It's like, bonding, father-son bonding, sticking a middle finger to the man. to a certain extent. This is our neighborhood. We're not going to let it change for anyone. This is our place, and we're going to keep it the way it is. We're not going to let no douchebags from elsewhere gentrify and turn it into something else. Like, oh, that's disgusting. It's like, right, like rollerblades, skateboarded, hell yeah. Scooters, what are you, an asshole? It's that mentality, which I love. So, a lot of really, really interesting things. I'm really curious to see where things take us, obviously with the Pamela development, but also, like, once again, Jay's position, because he's kind of on the outs. Like, once again, his uncles, even Pete, have been punking him, so how is Jay going to respond? Because I do see that there are moments later on Jay, based on the trailer, that Jay, like, had a really busted up face. So I'm like, did Pope do that to him because he got pissed? Did Pete do that to him because Pete decides to ultimately screw him over? Because I think at one point Pope is like, yeah, you're out of here. So I'm like, I'm curious, does it have anything to do with that? There's also the cop that dropped by that was like, yo, I want to tell you Andrew was in the hospital. First and foremost, I got to remember where I know that actor from. I know him from something. I swear he played, maybe, I feel like whatever it is I know him from, I feel like he played a cop. I have to look into it because I know that actor from something. I just don't remember what. So there's that. But also, like, early in the episode, he was like, yo, I know, like, your partner, like, is on vacation, but it's like, right, you know, you should do things by the rules, like the rest of us, like, be a good cop, don't, like, because he knows, like, right, the Codys have a lot of sway on certain cops, so that's what he was kind of hinting at. But the fact is, home dude rolled up at the place being like, oh, I think you should know that Pope is in a hospital. I'm like, or at least someone should know. I'm like, is he greasing the wheels of, like, nah, you know, it seemed like they might be setting something up there, too. Like, the fact is that he went out of his way. Like, he didn't have to do that. But I guess maybe it's like, right, I don't want his family not knowing what's going on. Or, like, hey, remember, I was there, like, when you, like, you know, helping out little by little. So, I'm thinking he's going to be their new police connect type of thing. Once again, having to form their own connections. But that's, you know, that might be me, like, reading too much into something, but it just definitely seemed like they're playing that cop up for something. I'm like, wait, Nahles, you don't think he's, because I didn't pay attention to his name, it's like, you don't think he's one of Pamela's kids, do you? Because we know at the time she had the one, I believe. I don't know if that's supposed to be him older, or, like, whether that's, like, another one of her kids, like, I don't know. Like, well, it seems like you're kind of taking an interest in the Codys. Maybe it's beneficial to you, or maybe there's something there. It'd be ironic, and maybe that's the whole point of it. Like, right, her kid, if that ends up being her kid, if it is, like I said, I could be completely wrong, and I'm fine with that. It just, because like I said, I didn't pay attention to the character's name the last time he popped up, or even, because, you know, like, he has this, like, name tag or something, like, oh, you're Officer Johnson, you know? If he is her kid or whatever, but like I didn't pay attention to that. But if that were her kid, I'm like, it'd be interesting thing. But like I said, he could just be a setup for like, oh, having someone in the police that's on your side, like you're forming new connections, stuff like that. But like I said, a lot of that could just be me reading too much and overthinking certain things. But like I said, very interested to see where the next episode takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, enjoy. Jesus Christ, I've screwed up. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye. I could re-record that outro, but I'm not going to. It's staying in. Bye.